Welcome to Idaho and the Rocky Mountains. You got a great view this morning. Nice time of day, and I'm glad beautiful blue skies today.
Oh, yeah, it's
a typical summer day.
I mean, nice and coming from Texas. This is nice and cool, no humidity. Yeah. I'm really glad to be away from that 100-degree humid weather back in Texas. Yeah.
The only drawback this time of year is this is forest fire season, and luckily the wind's with us today because just north of Salmon, they've got a monumental fire burning. I mean, it's well over 50,000 acres, and it is a nightmare. Thank God we've got the firefighters are doing the incredible job of trying to keep it under control and particularly protect people's residents. So it's always a scary time of year about in the middle. And if you're in the Intermountain West, forest fire season is always a little discomforting.
I'm curious, what guns do you shoot on a regular basis?
Being a gun guy, I violate one of the sins that if you want to be really good, you should shoot that gun all the time on a regular basis. So being a gun guy, that's no fun. So I shoot a lot of different guns. And like you, I have the pleasure of owning my own range. Yeah. And it's 100 yards from where we're sitting. So I load up stuff, and periodically I'll go open up the safes and go, well, I'm going to shoot this one. But I found that there's a pile of guns I shoot on a fairly regular basis. So I've drug them out. For example, one of the first Hackathorn Specials you guys built me that I use is a 9mm. I got the first one's a 45. We'll talk about it later. But I had you guys build me a 9mm Hackathorn Special 5-inch gun. And it's, I've shot a lot, still do. I'll be honest with you. Once I got a lightweight Commander and the Commander family, this thing has kind of ended up staying in the safe a lot more. But I shoot it once in a while. And truth of the matter is, a full-size steel frame 5-inch gun is a pussycat in 9mm. And that gun has been outstanding for me. Yeah. And I carry, of course, I'm a big fan of Milt Sparks leather. And this is a holster called the 1RT, which is my favorite. That's kind of my go-to holster. And again, grip angle wise, it allows me to get the good grip, and Sparks makes superb leather. But that pistol at one point got probably the majority of my trigger time was with that gun.
What is that, about a 5-degree cant or something like that?
Yeah, just about a 5-degree handle,
Because you've always been a big fan of pretty much a vertical holster on the point of your hip.
That's pretty much been me. And I'm a firm believer that you don't want to alter where you carry a gun. We talked about getting a firing grip. I want my hand kind of programmed to always go to the same location.
Yeah, regardless of what type of gun you're shooting.
Once you lay that one over there, Bill. The gun I have here is the old CQB that I got. This is a gun that's marked Wilson Combat Service Grade. That would have been, what, in the early 90s? It's been rebuilt with the boys a couple times. Last time, it was originally a green, OD green and black slide, and last time I had them do gray and black. It's got ivory on it, which I'm kind of fond of. And I tell people, if you actually carry an ivory stock gun, you can tell if somebody really carries one, and I'll tell you why. The left grip, the one that's against your body, is always polished smooth because of your clothing. And plus, because a little bit, I think, of perspiration stuff, it tends to take a little bit more yellow character. The one on the outside constantly bumps and rubs against stuff like so it's always going to be duller. And generally, if you look, it's a little bit more coarse because, face it, this is a tooth, a piece of a tooth. And seat belt, all that stuff takes its toll. So the right grip will always be of different texture and color if it was actually carried. But this gun has had a blue million rounds through it. I mean, I have shot the snot out of it. And you know what? Still shoot it once in a while. It's still a great gun. It's got a lot of wear and character. Great trigger, and you're like me. When you get a gun, good triggers, don't touch it. Don't do anything to it, So I'm attached to the gun. The interesting thing about it is that's one of the original test sample mags you sent me back.
Oh yeah, this is an early '80s vintage
you said,
magazine.
Try these out.
Yeah.
Now the original base plate, plastic base plate, broke from being dropped on a hard surface, and you at a later point gave me a couple of those aluminum ones. And this had replacement springs and followers through the years, but that is one of the original ones. It still works.
Oh yeah.
And the gun, like I say, in many ways for me is like an old friend.
Well, I know, just like me, you don't shoot 45 much anymore.
No.
But when you do, I think this is the gun you.
That's the one
this is the one you grab when you're going to go shoot a 45.
And I've got what I call a geezer load. You know, a 180 grain semi-wide cutter with 4.3 grains of clays, and so it's a pretty soft shooting load. You know, and every once in a while I man up and shoot real 45 ammo, but not very much of it. And the only real changes I've done over the years with that gun, Bill, is when you live out here in the wintertime, you have to wear gloves. I mean, it's not an option. So I went to a short trigger because it gives you more room to get your finger in there.
I was going to ask you why that one had a short trigger.
That's why I did it, because when you're wearing gloves, even with gloves, your finger gets kind of numb. You lose a lot of feel. And it's real easy to think, well, I'm just going to take up the slack and it goes bang. So the short trigger is kind of that built-in safety device, if you will. And this is this is original Milk Sparks holster. Milt made this when he was still in Idaho City, Idaho, before they went down to Idaho. Wow. So that holster's older than the gun.
Oh, yeah. And you can't wear out a Sparks holster.
Oh, no. They make great stuff. It's interesting that once I, got the Hackathorn Special 9mm 5-inch, eventually I had, not long after I got that, I had the guys make me up a Hackathorn Special lightweight 9mm Commander. And this is a gun. And I got to tell you, if you look at the wear on it, it's been carried quite a bit. It's probably the gun I carry the most. And it's, it's a great gun. I still shoot this thing probably as good as I shoot any 9mm pistol. And as a matter of fact, I'm so attached to it, I was like, any gun that you really consider a primary gun, you need a spare. So they're building me another one right now.
Really?
But anyway, this is and a Sparks Summer Special, which is kind of, to me, I mean, the optimum concealed carry gun for me. And I tell people, my lifestyle where I live, I don't need a little gun. As a matter of fact, one of the beauties, Bill, of being an old guy is I could carry a Desert 50 Eagle, and nobody pays attention to old geezers. So I could get by carrying about anything. But this gun has been, has been a regular, should we say, companion for probably the last 4 or 5 years. And I shoot it quite a bit. And there used to be an argument that the 9mm frames won't hold up. That one's proof that it's not a problem.
Oh yeah, even in 45, the aluminum frames hold up real well.
And aluminum,
but you put them in put a 9 in it. I mean, most people would never ever wear out an aluminum frame 9mm handgun.
And not only the manufacturing techniques, but the materials have improved over the years.
Oh yeah.
Here's a gun that I was one of the beta testers, one of the test mules on the original X9. And when that was over with, you gave me this gun, and this is actually serial number 203. And I shoot it pretty regular. And I won't kid you, I just feel more comfortable carrying that other gun because I'm an old 1911 guy. But this pistol is a sweetheart. This thing is like been for me. I mean, everybody wants to shoot an X9. Say, Ken, have you got one? And I always hand them this, and everybody gets, after they're done, they're like, oh man, I got to get one of these. And this thing has been, I've probably been shot by other people as much as I've shot it, because everybody likes it. And in my opinion, probably one of the most unique guns in the development of the Wilson Combat product line. And I think we're all would be aware of the fact that this gun, in other words, by the way, another Sparks 1 RT. But as far as how this thing is evolving, I mean, we both know the X9 family is still evolving and probably will for a while.
Yeah.
And like I say, that's an early one. And of course, it's got the large backstrap because I'm larger hand. But by the way, I shoot that gun real well. I like that gun.
Yep, that's one of the original ones there.
Yeah, pretty early one.
Yeah.
Production-wise, do you have any idea what you're up to number-wise? Where you're?
I honestly don't have any idea.
But
it's a lot of them though.
Yeah.
Yeah, of the whole series, we built a lot of them, and the SFX9, that we've had out now for, I don't know, 6 months or 8 months, something like that. It's rapidly becoming our best selling model as opposed to the original ones with the grip panel, just because it's so much thinner. I mean, it's.
So that gun gets some range time. Let me show you a gun that I've had for a long time, and you and I have always had a weakness for Berettas. And back in the early days of IDPA, Ernie Langdon was shooting IDPA. He still worked for Beretta. I think he was governmental sales at the time. Big fan of the 92, of course. And he was behind them bringing out the 92 Elite, which was a specialized, basically geared for IDPA stock service competition. And this is one of the early guns. And I have shot the snot out of it. To the point where, you know, these guns were originally, they're G models, which means they're decockers. And it got to the point where I was having a hard time. It worn to the point it could hardly get a decock. So I sent it to Ernie here a year or so ago and say, hey, could you fix it? And he did. And he went through it. There were a lot of parts that needed replaced in it. But the kicker was, back in the days when Ernie was still, there wasn't any LTT Enterprises. Ernie did the trigger job of this in a Holiday Inn where we were shooting a match, and he did it in a Holiday Inn. But his trigger pulls, you know, which it certainly showed your guys how to do it, and it shows. But this gun, it's got interesting. There was a time most people realized Novak made a rear sight for the Beretta, which is what this is. And I here about 5 or 6 years ago, I put one of your fiber optic fronts on because it is easier to see. But this gun is, man, let's put it this way, it has got a distinguished career. I shoot it well, and it's got a action that's, you know, pretty impressive. And you can remember back in the days when Blade Tech, you know, Kydex holsters were what everybody used.
Yeah. Yeah, Ernie's did a good job on this action. It's a great action.
Yeah.
And I think we both agree. I mean, nothing shoots softer than a Beretta 92. I mean, anybody that has any qualms with recoil or whatever, this is the way to go, because this has got to be the lightest and softest shooting 9mm there is on the market.
Besides being incredibly reliable,
they're
extremely accurate.
Yep.
All right, now, recently, by this I mean a few years ago, you told me about your plan to go to the SIG 320 market and do your own product line. And so I got one. Now, the one I use, I'm probably, unlike a lot of other people, with this design pistol, I feel much better with a mechanical safety. It's like a 1911 anti-safety. This one's got, of course, the trigger jobs you guys add as an option, which gives you incredible triggers. Anyway, so this is a Wilson Combat carry, except I sent Bucket the fire control unit for an M17. Bottom line, this is a gun I shoot really well. Surprised how well I shoot this gun. I mean, it's quite accurate. I mean, I don't think it's as accurate as a Beretta, between you and I, but it's more accurate than I can shoot the gun. And so I got this gun, and it's amazing, that DLC finish on this gun. I use it. This is one of Tony Meyer's Kydex holsters, and he's kind of like the master of Kydex holsters, JM Custom Kydex. And you would think that the Kydex would grind the finish off. With that DLC, it doesn't show a lick of wear.
Yeah.
So this gun, believe it or not, I shoot on a regular. I keep it in my shooting bag. It's one of my guns I shoot, and I'm never fail to be amazed at how well I shoot it.
Yeah, holsters made out of actual Kydex, not some of the newer molded ones that are a lot softer. I mean, they're terrible on gun finishes.
Yeah.
I mean, especially a painted finish, man, they're terrible on them.
And I have to admit, everybody I know, once they try a Wilson Combat grip module for 320, it's a no-brainer. And that's got to be the module itself's got to be a good seller for you.
Oh, it's been a real home run, but the major home run is when we brought it out for the 365.
Yeah.
I mean, we knew it'd go over well based on what we learned from the 320s. So initially we had a whole lot more of them made, and we weren't even close. I mean, we sold out the first production run like in 2 weeks.
Yeah. And same thing. I've not heard anybody that bought one that said, "Oh man, this is the best improvement in the 365 is that grip module." Yeah. Bill, have always had an interest in the SIG P210 pistols. And that was always kind of a connoisseur's gun. I remember when I was younger, I always wanted one, but they were too expensive. I never could afford one, or couldn't bring myself to pay the money. Well, life moves on, and eventually I started finding one here and there. Great guns. They're beautifully made because I tell people, remember, the Swiss are nothing but anal Germans. So their manufacture of firearms is spectacular. And they're historically very accurate, really good triggers. Ergonomics, not really good as far as, face it, Swiss haven't been in a war for a long, long time, so manipulating the safety, and they had the heel release magazine, but nonetheless, nice guns. Well, here a few years ago, Ron Cohen and the guys up at SIG Sauer said, the Swiss quit making the gun. Actually, they made some, and SIG made some, Sauer made some in Germany for about a year or so, and then discontinued them. And then Ron Cohen said, let's make it in America. And I found out one of the reasons because it's Ron Cohen's favorite pistol. So they introduced the American-made P210. It's got a different lockup, and there's some changes, but for the money, this is one incredible pistol.
Yeah.
And we're going to shoot it because I know haven't been around P210s much. A lot of people just say, well, it's only got a 8-round magazine. Yeah, back in 1949 when this gun was adopted, everybody thought 8 rounds was plenty. But the beauty of the gun is, it's just, they've got the new thumb safeties like a 1911 you can actually use.
Yep.
It's now got a push-button magazine release. One of the drawbacks, they didn't bevel it. I mean, they should have beveled a bit more, but nonetheless, as a gun that's fun to shoot, and the trigger pull, you take the slack out, you hit the wall, and right after the wall, about 2.5 pounds later, it goes click.
And it's got the beaver tail on it.
Yeah, it's got the beaver tail, so they don't bite you anymore. But this pistol is, believe it or not, I shoot it, not a lot, but every month or two I get out and shoot it because it's just a joy to shoot. And when you shoot it, one of the first things you're going to notice is it's got a bit of metal muzzle flip compared to other pistols. It's noticeable. But in the real world, that's not a big deal. It may be in the competition world, but they're beautifully made guns. And here's a gun that's sold for kind of on the street, $1,200, $1,300.
Wow. Yeah, that's a real value for this quality of gun. Yeah. Yeah, I may have to pick one of these up because only 210 I've got is the original one. It's got the heel deal and all that, So.
And they're great guns, but for shooting purposes, that's the gun to have right there, and it's priced right. Now, last one we're going to talk about is, I've, like everybody else, I've made attempt to learn about what we call the dot light, shooting a red dot, and we're going to talk about it later in another segment, but this is the one I shoot the most, and it's probably one of the most recent ones I've got. And this is actually a Shadow Systems. It's a company down in Texas, kind of a new company that basically they're making Glock clones, but they do a great job. One of the things that I like, that you and I both have always talked about, is the grip angle. It comes with 3 interchangeable back straps. One will be like a Glock, one's midway, and this one gives you the 1911 grip index. And I've got a Holosun on it. And a lot of people get upset about a Holosun because they're made in China, and I get that. I get the Holosun made in China thing. But, so is our iPhone and a lot of things we use. So it's a Chinese optic, but it's what I put on this gun. I like it because it's a direct mount. There's no interface. It's a good pistol. This one basically is the XR 920, so I got a full 17 size grip, but a 19 length on it. And actually, I shoot this thing pretty well. And everybody in the world wants us to believe that the red dot's the future, and I'm going to say I'm not exactly convinced of that. But this has proven to be a easy gun, red dot wise, to get involved in and shoot. And the Holosuns, compared to say Trijicon or aim points, are reasonably priced. And I would never, put it away, I would never say I would never carry one, but I don't, and I have no desire at this point in my life. Now the day may come, but I'm also a firm believer that everybody says it's a future, and I'm not so sure I drink that Kool-Aid, but we'll talk about that later.
Well, I know you spend a lot of time, shooting various dot sights and testing various dot sights for companies and all that.
I put a bunch of rounds through red dots, so people say, "Oh, he's an old geezer and he doesn't know what he's talking about." Actually, I've made a real effort at getting good with one.
Yeah, you put your dues on this stuff, and that's something I'm still way behind on. So, yeah, really the only handgun I've got with a red dot on it, Smith & Wesson M&P with a threaded barrel and a suppressor that I use to shoot armadillos and stuff like that on the ranch. I mean, as far as drawing from a holster and shooting a red dot, I have zero experience.
I've got a buckmark with a suppressor on it, and I had a little cheap red dot, one of the Redfield or Burris, whatever. Last time I had to shoot a pack rat, and I got it and the batteries were dead, and I was like, so anyway, yeah, you're right. But I have other guns. I've got a couple 22s I keep in my truck, and I got a gun vault in the back of my truck, and I shoot. One's a Ruger standard automatic, and the other one's a little Beretta 71s. I should have drug them out, but I forgot about them. But anyway, that's kind of the pile that I shoot.
That's some pretty cool stuff, Ken. Appreciate you sharing that with us.
Hey, listen, I hope you enjoyed it. I think we're going to see if we can't twist Bill's arm and show us some of your traveling shooting guns here, maybe in one of the follow-up episodes.
Well, when you told me you were going to, dig your pile out of the stuff that you play with all the time, I brought not a pile this size, but I think I brought a half a dozen, maybe seven, seven of my favorite shooters. So we'll go with those.
I hope we can follow up on that very quickly. Listen, gang, again, press the subscribe button to the Wilson Combat YouTube channel. And also, if you have questions or something you would like to talk about or something you'd like for us to discuss, don't be afraid to add that to the comment section in the future. Stay safe, go to the range, and we'll see you down the road.